The wolf den was where traitors went to die, and as the guards dragged Nerissa toward the pit, she didn't scream. She didn't beg. She simply closed her eyes and waited for the end her family had arranged. They called her cursed, tainted, a beast wrapped in woman's skin. Her father had made sure the entire kingdom believed it, and now she would pay for sins she never committed. The wolves below were starving. 50 beasts bred for execution, their howls shaking the stone walls. When the guards threw her down, she expected teeth and claws and a swift death. Instead, silence. Every wolf went still. Then, one by one, they lowered their heads. The crowd above erupted in chaos, but one voice cut through it all, cold and absolute. "Stop the execution." Alpha King Karis of Valdorn stood at the edge of the pit, his pale gray eyes fixed on the impossible sight below. A woman standing unharmed among wolves who should have torn her apart. "She belongs to me now," he declared. He would take her as his wife. He would protect her from those who wanted her dead. But he made one thing clear from the start. He would never love her. Neither of them understood how impossible that vow would be. The pit stank of blood and desperation. Nerissa had smelled it long before the guards dragged her through the fortress gates, long before the jeering crowd parted to let them pass. It clung to the ancient stones, seeped into the iron grates that covered the wolf den below. Generations of condemned souls had met their end here, and their terror had soaked into everything. Now it was her turn. "Move." A guard shoved her forward, and Nerissa stumbled, her bound wrists making balance impossible. The coarse rope had rubbed her skin raw during the 3-day journey from her father's estate. She'd stopped feeling the pain somewhere around the second day. The crowd that had gathered was enormous. Nobles in fine furs pressed against merchants in worn wool, all of them craning for a better view. Public executions were rare entertainment in Valdorn, and a traitor being fed to wolves was rarer still. "Is that her?" someone whispered. "The beast blood? Look at her eyes. Keep your distance." They say she killed her betrothed, ripped his throat out when her beast side took over. Nerissa kept her head down, her hood pulled low. Let them believe what they wanted. Let them believe what her father had told them. The truth didn't matter anymore. The guards halted at the edge of the pit. Below, the wolves paced. 50 massive beasts, ribs showing through matted fur, their eyes gleaming with hunger. They hadn't been fed in weeks. The crowd knew this. That was part of the spectacle. "Nerissa Corvain," the executioner announced, his voice booming across the courtyard. "You have been found guilty of murder by unnatural means. The sentence is death." A rough hand yanked back her hood. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Nerissa felt their stares like physical blows, knew what they were seeing. Her eyes, normally dark brown, had begun to glow with faint amber light. It always happened when her emotions ran high, the mark of beast blood, the proof of her corruption. "Look at her eyes. Monster! Throw her in!" The guards grabbed her arms and lifted. For one suspended moment, Nerissa hung over the pit, staring down at the wolves who would tear her apart. She thought of her mother, dead when she was young, her sister Meridia, who testified against her at the trial, her father, who'd orchestrated this entire nightmare. Then, they let go. She fell. The impact drove the breath from her lungs. Stones scraped her palms as she caught herself, and then she was surrounded. Wolves closing in from every direction, their growls vibrating through the floor, their breath hot against her skin. "This is it," she thought. "This is how I die." She closed her eyes and waited for the pain. It never came. Instead, the growling stopped. The movement stopped. Everything stopped. Nerissa opened her eyes. The wolves had frozen mid-stride. Every single one of them stood motionless, their heads turned toward her with an expression she'd never seen on a beast before. Recognition. Then, slowly, the largest wolf lowered itself to the ground, its massive head bowed until its nose nearly touched the stone. One by one, the others followed. 50 starving wolves, bred for violence, laying themselves at her feet in perfect submission. Above, the crowd had gone deathly silent. Nerissa rose on shaking legs, her glowing eyes reflected in 50 pairs of amber. She didn't understand what was happening. She'd never controlled animals before, never even been near wolves. But somehow, impossibly, they knew her. "What sorcery is this?" someone screamed. The spell broke. Voices erupted in panic, nobles scrambling backward, guards drawing weapons. Someone was calling for archers, for fire, for anything that might destroy the monster in the pit. Silence. One word and the chaos stopped. Nerissa looked up to find a figure standing at the edge of the pit, tall and broad-shouldered, with hair like pale gold and eyes the color of a winter storm. Cold radiated from him even at this distance, a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Alpha King Karis of Valdorn. He studied her for a long moment, his expression revealing nothing. Then he turned to the executioner. "This woman is no longer condemned." "Your Majesty?" The executioner gaped. "She's been found guilty of murder. The sentence is hereby revoked." Karis's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "I invoke the ancient right of royal claim. This woman belongs to me now." The crowd erupted in confused murmurs. Royal claim hadn't been invoked in centuries. It was an old law, nearly forgotten, that allowed a king to take ownership of any condemned prisoner. "But Your Majesty," a nobleman protested, "she's beast blood, corrupted, dangerous. You saw what she did to those wolves." "I saw." Karis's gaze dropped back to Nerissa, still standing among the bowing wolves. "Which is precisely why I'm claiming her." He extended his hand toward the pit. "Come, lady. Unless you'd prefer to stay with your new friends." Nerissa stared at his outstretched hand, her mind racing. This made no sense. Kings didn't claim condemned criminals. They certainly didn't claim beast blood women who made wolves bow, but the alternative was death. She took his hand. His skin was like touching ice, so frigid it made her gasp. But his grip was firm as he pulled her up from the pit, lifting her over the edge with surprising strength. For a moment they stood face to face. His gray eyes met her glowing amber ones without flinching. "You're not afraid," she whispered. "Should I be?" Before she could answer, he turned to address the crowd. "This woman will be my wife," he announced. "My queen. Anyone who threatens her threatens me." The silence that followed was deafening, and as Karis led her away from the pit, Nerissa couldn't help but wonder what she'd just traded her death for. The carriage moved swiftly through the darkening countryside. Nerissa sat rigid on the velvet seat, her hands clasped in her lap, acutely aware of the man sitting across from her. Karis hadn't spoken since they'd left the execution grounds. He simply watched her with those unreadable gray eyes. "You have questions," he said finally. "Several." "Ask." Nerissa straightened her spine. "Why?" "You'll need to be more specific." "Why claim me? Why marry me? You're the Alpha King. You could have any woman in the realm, princesses, noble women, anyone." She gestured at herself. "Instead, you chose a condemned beast blood with glowing eyes and wolf-speaking abilities I don't understand." "Those abilities are precisely why I chose you." "I don't understand." "No." His voice was flat. "You wouldn't." The carriage hit a rut, jostling them both. When they settled, Karis leaned forward slightly. "I'm going to be direct with you, lady, because I find deception tiresome. I need a wife. The council has been pressuring me for years to produce an heir. But I have no interest in love, no capacity for it. What I require is an arrangement. An arrangement. A marriage of convenience. You will be my queen. You will give me children. In exchange, I will protect you from everyone who wants you dead." His eyes held hers. "And believe me, after today's display, that list has grown considerably." Nerissa absorbed this. "What about my condition?" "Your eyes?" He shrugged. "You'll wear a hood in public, My personal guards will be sworn to never look at your face directly. Your secret will be protected. Why go to such lengths? Something flickered in his expression, gone too fast to read. Let's say I understand what it means to hide something. The castle came into view through the carriage window, gray towers rising against a darker sky. Nerissa stared at it, trying to process everything. You said you have no capacity for love, she said quietly. What does that mean? Karis's jaw tightened. It means exactly what it sounds like. I will never love you, Nerissa. I will be a faithful husband. I will protect you. I will treat you with respect. But love is something I cannot give. Cannot or will not. The question hung between them. For a moment, something shifted in his eyes. Something almost like pain. Both, he said finally. Does this arrangement still interest you? Nerissa thought of the pit, the wolves, her father's satisfied smile as they dragged her away. It interests me, she said. Very much. The next few days passed in a blur. Nerissa was given chambers larger than her entire childhood home. Guards were assigned to her, sworn by blood oath to never look directly at her face. Seamstresses arrived to fit her for gowns. Servants attended to her every need. No one hit her. No one mocked her. No one called her beast blood or monster. It was disorienting. On the third day, she was summoned to the council chamber to finalize the marriage contract. She wore a hooded cloak that shadowed her features, her hands hidden in her sleeves to conceal how badly they were trembling. Karis sat at the head of a long table, advisors flanking him on either side, and at the far end, wearing an expression of barely concealed fury, sat her father, Lord Corvain. Please sit. Karis gestured to a chair near him. Nerissa sat, acutely aware of her father's gaze burning into her. The terms are straightforward, Karis began. Lady Nerissa will become my queen. She will be under my protection permanently. No one, his eyes cut to Corvain, will be permitted to harm her or threaten her in any way. Your Majesty. Her father's voice was silk over venom. I must protest. You don't understand what you're agreeing to. This woman is dangerous, unstable. She murdered her own betrothed. Allegedly. The evidence was overwhelming. Her eyes were seen glowing at the scene. Beast blood magic. Was the evidence presented at trial? Yes? Karis's voice remained calm. I've read the transcripts. I found them unconvincing. Corvain's face reddened. Your Majesty. Furthermore, Karis continued as if he hadn't spoken, I find it curious that a father would so eagerly condemn his own daughter. Most parents at least attempt to defend their children. The silence that followed was razor-sharp. I was speaking to my future queen, Karis said softly. Is this arrangement agreeable to you, my lady? Nerissa lifted her chin. It is, Your Majesty. More than agreeable. Then sign here. She signed. Her father signed as witness, his hand trembling with barely suppressed rage. The advisors signed, exchanging confused glances. It was done. Lord Corvain, Karis said pleasantly, you may leave now. Your presence is no longer required. Her father rose stiffly. At the door, he paused, looking back at Nerissa with hatred that made her stomach clench. You think you've won? He said quietly. But when he discovers what truly sleeps inside you, he won't protect you. He'll be the one holding the blade. Then he was gone. The wedding took place 5 days later. Nerissa stood before the great cathedral doors, her heart pounding beneath the elaborate gown the seamstresses had crafted. A delicate veil covered her face, thin enough to see through but thick enough to shadow her features. The crowd inside was enormous. Every noble in Valdorn had come to witness the impossible, their cold, untouchable king taking a condemned beast blood as his queen. The whispers started the moment she entered. She's still wearing a veil. What's wrong with her face? I heard her eyes glow like a demon's. Nerissa kept walking, her gaze fixed on the altar where Karis waited. He wore black, as she'd expected. The formal clothing emphasized his broad shoulders, his commanding height. His pale gold hair was pulled back, revealing the sharp planes of his face. Beautiful, she thought. Beautiful and cold as winter itself. She reached the altar. The priest began the ceremony. Through the veil, she watched Karis's expression remain perfectly neutral. No warmth, no nervousness, no emotion at all. He said his vows with the same detachment he might use to discuss trade agreements. Then it was her turn. Do you, Nerissa Corvain, take this man as your husband, your king, your mate? I do. Karis leaned close, his breath cold against her ear. I meant what I said. I will never love you. Please understand that this isn't cruelty. It's protection. Protection for whom? He pulled back, something flickering in his gray eyes. Both of us. The priest was looking at them expectantly. The rings, Your Majesty. Karis took her hand to slip the ring onto her finger. The moment his skin touched hers, Nerissa gasped. He was freezing. Not cool, but genuinely cold, as if ice ran through his veins instead of blood. Your Majesty, she whispered. I know. His voice was tight. It's a family condition. Before she could ask more, the priest pronounced them married. You may kiss your bride, Your Majesty. The cathedral went silent. Every eye fixed on them, waiting to see if the king would lift the veil. Karis studied her shadowed face for a long moment. Do you want me to look? He asked quietly. No. The word came out strangled. But perhaps you should. I made a vow to protect your secret. His cold hand lifted hers instead, bringing her knuckles to his lips. I intend to keep it. The kiss was gentle, formal, his lips ice cold against her skin. The crowd murmured in confusion and disappointment. But Nerissa stood frozen, warmth spreading through her chest despite the chill of his touch. He kept his word, she thought. He could have demanded to see my face, but he didn't. That night, Karis came to her chambers. Our arrangement requires an heir, he said without preamble. I understand if you need time to prepare yourself, but I don't need time. He paused, surprise flickering across his features. I agreed to the terms, Nerissa said quietly. All of them. Karis studied her for a long moment. Then he withdrew something from his pocket. A strip of black silk. A blindfold, he explained. For you. So you don't have to worry about your eyes being seen, even by me. The thoughtfulness of it made her throat tight. Thank you, she whispered. She tied the blindfold around her own eyes, plunging the world into darkness. Somehow it made everything easier. No need to hide her glowing eyes, no fear of being seen, just sensation. His cold hands found her shoulders, gentle despite their chill. She shivered as his fingers traced down her arms. You're warm, he murmured, sounding almost surprised. And you're freezing. Does it bother you? No. The truth surprised her. It feels right somehow. That night changed something between them. It wasn't love. They'd both agreed love wasn't part of this arrangement, but it was something, a connection neither had expected. And when Karis rose to leave before dawn, he hesitated at the door. Same time tomorrow? He asked quietly. Nerissa smiled beneath her blindfold. I'll be here. The weeks that followed established a pattern. By day, Nerissa explored her new life. She discovered the library, the gardens, and the kennels where the palace wolves were kept. The beasts always reacted strangely to her, growing quiet and docile whenever she approached. She still didn't understand why. By night, Karis came to her chambers. The blindfold became their ritual. In the darkness, stripped of sight, they learned each other through touch alone. His cold hands mapping her warmth. Her fingers tracing the planes of his chest, always startled by how his skin felt like ice. Why are you so cold? She asked one night, her head resting against his chest. His heart beat slowly beneath her ear, strong but sluggish, as if fighting through frost. I told you, it's a family condition. That's not an answer. Silence stretched between them, then quietly. It's the only answer I can give. She let it go. For now. 1 month into their marriage, something shifted. Karis began arriving earlier each evening. Sometimes he came before sunset, sharing dinner with her in her chambers before leading her to bed. He stayed longer too, his cold body pressed against her warm one, as if drawing heat from her very presence. Some mornings she woke to find him still there. "You stayed," she said the first time it happened, unable to hide her surprise. "You're warm," he mumbled against her hair, still half asleep. "I haven't felt warm in years." Her heart clenched. She began doing small things to keep him comfortable. Building up the fire before he arrived, laying out extra blankets, wearing soft fabrics that wouldn't chill against his frozen skin. He noticed. He never commented, but she saw it in his eyes, that flicker of confusion that appeared whenever she showed him kindness. "Why do you do that?" he asked one evening, watching her stoke the fire. "Do what?" "Care for me. Anticipate my needs." His brow furrowed. "We have an arrangement. You're not required to." "I know I'm not required." She turned to face him. "I want to." That night, for the first time, he told her she didn't need the blindfold. "Keep your eyes closed," he said instead, his cold fingers tracing her face in the darkness. "Let me learn you this way." She kept them closed as his hands mapped her features, her cheekbones, her jaw, the curve of her lips. When his fingers brushed her eyelids, she felt him hesitate. "What do they look like?" he asked. "When they glow?" "Amber? Like a wolf's." "I'd like to see them someday." His voice was soft. "If you'd let me." Her heart stuttered. "You might not like what you see." "I doubt that." Later, tangled together in the darkness, his arm around her waist, Nerissa allowed herself to acknowledge what she'd been denying for weeks. She was falling in love with him. With his unexpected gentleness, his dry humor that emerged when his guard was down, the way he held her as if she were something precious. But he'd been clear from the start. He would never love her. The question was, why? 2 months into the marriage, Nerissa confirmed what she'd suspected for weeks. She was pregnant. The healer delivered the news with a broad smile, clearly expecting joy. And there was joy, deep and genuine, but beneath it coiled fear. That evening, she waited for Karis in her chambers, hands pressed against her still flat stomach. He knew something was different the moment he walked in. "What's wrong?" He crossed to her immediately, his cold hands cupping her face. "You're pale. Are you ill?" "Not ill." She took a shaky breath. "Karis, I'm pregnant." Stillness. His hands remained on her face, frozen in place. She couldn't read his expression, couldn't tell if the news pleased him or simply satisfied the terms of their contract. Then his hand slid down to her stomach, pressing gently against the fabric of her gown. "We're having a child," he breathed. And she heard it, wonder and joy, something almost like awe. "You're happy?" She hadn't meant to sound so uncertain. "Happy?" He pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her with fierce gentleness. "Nerissa, I never thought." His voice broke. She held him as he trembled against her, this cold, controlled king who never showed emotion. Something was breaking open inside him, something he'd kept locked away for so long. "I love you," she whispered. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Karis went rigid. "I know you said you couldn't love me back," she continued quickly. "I know that wasn't part of our arrangement, but I need you to know, whatever happens, whatever comes next, I love you." "Nerissa, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know." Slowly, his arms tightened around her, his face buried in her hair. "I love you too." The words were barely audible. "What?" She pulled back, searching his face. "I love you." His gray eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw fear in them, real, raw terror. "I tried not to. I swore I wouldn't. But He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes went wide. His hand flew to his chest. Karis? Frost was spreading across his skin. Not the usual cold, but visible ice, crystallizing over his knuckles, climbing up his wrists. No, he gasped. Not yet. I didn't. His whole body convulsed. Karis! She caught him as he collapsed, lowering him to the floor. His skin was colder than she'd ever felt it, ice forming on his lips, his eyelashes, his cheeks. What's happening? Tell me what's happening. A curse, he managed, his voice fading. On my bloodline, we cannot love. What? If we fall in love? His eyes fluttered. Our hearts freeze. We die. No. She shook her head wildly. No, that can't. There has to be a way. I chose you because I thought I could never love someone whose face I'd never see. A ghost of a smile crossed his frozen lips. I was such a fool. Stop talking like you're dying. Tears streamed down her face. You're not dying. I won't let you. Look at me. His cold hand found her face, trembling. Before I go, let me see your eyes. She didn't hesitate. The eyes she'd hidden her whole life opened wide, glowing amber in the dim light. Karis stared at them with wonder. Beautiful, he breathed. I knew they would be. This was supposed to make you hate me. She was sobbing now. You were supposed to see the beast in me and stop loving me. I see no beast. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Only the woman I love. His eyes closed. The frost spread faster. Help! Nerissa screamed. Someone help me! The king is dying! 3 weeks later, Nerissa stood before the council as Queen Regent. Karis lay in his chambers, suspended between life and death. The frost had consumed most of his body, leaving only his face visible through the ice. Healers came and went, but none could help. I want a witch, she announced, the most powerful one you can find. The advisors exchanged uneasy glances. Your Majesty, witchcraft is heavily restricted. I don't care about restrictions. Find me someone who can break this curse or I will tear this kingdom apart looking for one myself. They found her a witch. The old woman arrived 3 days later, her eyes milky with age but sharp with power. She examined Karis thoroughly, her gnarled hands hovering over the ice. Ancient magic, she pronounced, a bloodline curse woven deep, very old, very cruel. Can you break it? Not with my abilities. The witch straightened. This requires fire to counter ice, powerful fire from a magical source. Nerissa's heart sank. Where would I find? You wouldn't need to find it. The witch's clouded eyes turned toward her. You have fire in you, child. Dormant, bound. But there. What are you talking about? Your beast blood. It's not a curse. It's inherited magic. Fire and beast speech combined. The witch moved closer, studying Nerissa with unsettling intensity. Someone sealed your abilities years ago. Who? The question hit Nerissa like a physical blow. My father, she whispered. When I was 13, right after my magic first manifested. And when did your betrothed die? A few months later. The witch nodded slowly. Then you couldn't have killed him. Not with magic. Your abilities were already bound. The realization crashed over Nerissa like a wave. All these years, she'd wondered if she truly had killed Theron in some uncontrolled burst of beast blood rage, but if her magic had been sealed before his death. My father knew, she breathed. He always knew I was innocent. Your father holds the seal. If you want your power back, you'll need to confront him. Nerissa looked at Karis, frozen and dying, and felt something cold and determined settle in her chest. Then that's exactly what I'll do. The Corvain estate loomed against the twilight sky. Nerissa dismounted before the gates, flanked by 2 royal guards. Her legs ached from the brutal ride, but she barely noticed. Every passing hour was another hour Karis slipped further away. The guards at the gate recognized her immediately. Your Majesty, your father isn't receiving. He'll receive me. She pushed past them. Or I'll have this estate razed by morning. She found him in his study, a glass of wine in hand as if he'd been expecting her. daughter. His smile was poison. I wondered when you'd come crawling back. Remove the seal on my magic. Why would I do that? Because the king is dying, and my fire can save him. Corvain laughed, a cold, hollow sound. Then let him die. Let you both die. It's what you deserve. You bound my magic when I was 13. Nerissa stepped closer. Which means I couldn't have killed Theron. Not with beast blood abilities, not with fire. So tell me, father, who really murdered him? The amusement drained from his face. I don't know what You have fire magic too, inherited from your mother, our grandmother. Nerissa watched his expression shift from denial to shock. A witch found me. She told me everything. The magic passes through blood. From your mother to you. From you to me. Lies, he spat, but his voice wavered. You killed Theron to frame me. You murdered an innocent man to hide your own shameful bloodline, and you've let me carry the blame for 15 years. You know nothing. I know you hated me from the moment my magic manifested. I reminded you of everything you'd spent your life running from. She took another step forward. Did you hate your own mother too? Is that why you let your father execute her? Corvain's face contorted with rage. She was a monster. She contaminated our bloodline with her filthy magic, and when you showed the same corruption, I did what had to be done. By killing Theron? He was unworthy of Meridia, a low-born opportunist who cast aside my legitimate daughter for you, the beast-blooded bastard. His voice rose to a shout. I solved 2 problems at once. I removed him and I condemned you. It should have ended there. You should have died in that wolf den. The study door burst open. Meridia stood in the entrance, her face ashen. Father. Her voice was barely a whisper. Tell me she's wrong. Corvain's fury faltered. Meridia, you don't understand. Tell me. Tears streamed down her sister's face. Tell me you didn't kill Theron. Tell me you didn't murder the man I loved and blame it on Nerissa. He betrayed you. He chose her over. He was coming back to me. Meridia's voice cracked. We spoke the night before he died. He said he'd made a mistake. He was going to honor our original betrothal. She staggered forward. He was coming back, and you killed him. For the first time, Corvain looked uncertain. I didn't know, he said. He never told me? Because you never asked. Meridia was shaking now. You just assumed the worst and took matters into your own hands. You murdered an innocent man. You condemned your own daughter. You let me hate my sister for 15 years. She crossed the room and struck him across the face. The blow sent him stumbling backward. His head cracked against the edge of the mantelpiece, and he crumpled to the floor, unconscious. Silence. The sisters stared at each other across their father's prone body. Meridia, Nerissa began. Don't. Her sister wiped her eyes roughly. Don't say it's not my fault. I testified against you. I watched them drag you away to be executed. I felt satisfied. Her voice broke. I'm as guilty as he is. You didn't know the truth. I should have believed you when you said you didn't do it. Meridia moved to their father's desk, pulling open drawers until she found what she was looking for. A small iron box covered in strange symbols. Here, the seal. Take it and save your king. Nerissa accepted the box with trembling hands. Inside lay a dark iron pendant, cold and heavy with years of suppression. I'll have the guards take father into custody, Meridia said quietly. I'll testify about everything he confessed. Meridia, go. Her sister's eyes were red but determined. You don't have much time. Nerissa rode through the night without stopping. The iron pendant burned against her chest like a coal, heavy with years of stolen power. She could feel her magic straining against it, desperate to be free. She reached the palace as dawn broke over the mountains. Karis lay exactly as she'd left him, encased in ice so thick she could barely see his face. The healers had retreated to the edges of the room, their expressions hopeless. Leave us, Nerissa commanded. They fled. She knelt beside the bed, pressing her hand against the ice that covered his chest. Even through the frozen barrier, she could feel the faint flutter of his heartbeat, slow and weakening with every passing moment. "I don't know if you can hear me," she whispered, "but I found the truth. I found my power, and I'm going to save you." She pulled the iron pendant from her neck and held it in her palm. The witch's words echoed in her mind. Fire to counter ice. Love to break the curse. She closed her eyes and reached for the heat she'd always felt burning beneath her skin, the warmth her father had tried so hard to extinguish. It was still there, waiting, a flame that had never truly died. She fed it with memories. Karis's cold hands cradling her face with impossible gentleness. His voice rough with sleep, murmuring that she was warm. The wonder in his eyes when he'd finally seen her glowing amber gaze. The pendant grew hot, hotter, molten. Power exploded through her like a dam breaking, flooding her veins with fire and light. The pendant melted in her hand, dripping through her fingers like liquid gold. For a moment, she was overwhelmed. The magic was wild, uncontrolled, 15 years of suppressed power roaring back to life all at once. She could feel it threatening to consume her, to burn her from the inside out. But then she thought of Karis, of their child growing inside her, of the life they could have together if she could just hold on. She opened her eyes. Fire poured from her hands in waves of golden heat, crashing against the ice that encased her husband. The frost hissed and steamed, melting inch by inch. But it fought back. The curse was old, centuries of accumulated magic, and it didn't want to die. Ice reformed as fast as she could melt it, pushing against her flames, trying to extinguish her fire. Nerissa pushed harder. She thought of the wolf den, of the moment the beasts had bowed before her. She thought of Karis claiming her before the entire kingdom, protecting her when no one else would. She thought of his voice breaking as he confessed his love, knowing what it would cost him. The fire roared. The ice screamed. For one terrible moment, she thought it wasn't going to work. The curse was too strong, too deeply rooted. She was going to fail, and Karis was going to die, and their child would never know its father. Then something cracked. Not the ice around Karis, but something deeper, something ancient. The curse shattered. Ice exploded outward in a shower of crystals that evaporated before they hit the ground. Nerissa collapsed forward, gasping, her power spent. Beneath her hands she felt warmth, real warmth, spreading through Karis's body for the first time in his life. His skin flushed with color, his heartbeat strengthened, his eyes opened. Gray eyes, no longer cold, met her glowing amber ones. "Nerissa?" His voice was hoarse, cracked, the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. "I'm here." She was laughing and crying at the same time. "I'm here, Karis." His hand rose to cup her face. His fingers were warm. "You're glowing," he murmured, wonder in his voice. "So are you." She pressed her forehead to his. "The curse is broken. For you. For our child. For your entire bloodline. You saved me. We saved each other." He pulled her close, and for the first time his embrace was warm. The wolf den had been transformed into a garden. Where once there had been iron grates and blood-stained stone, now there were flowers blooming in careful rows. A fountain played in the center, its water catching the sunlight. The wolves roamed freely beyond the walls, guardians instead of executioners. Nerissa stood at the edge of the garden, their son Calum sleeping in her arms. He had his father's pale gold hair and her amber eyes, a perfect blend of ice and fire. Footsteps approached. She turned to find Karis walking toward her, healthy and strong. There was color in his cheeks now, warmth in his skin. The curse was broken completely, not just for him, but for their entire bloodline. Calum would never know the cold prison his father had endured. "There you are," Karis said softly. He pulled her close, careful not to wake the baby, and pressed a kiss to her temple. The council session ran long. "Meridia's reform proposals?" Approved unanimously. He smiled. Full rights for magic users. Training academies in every province. Your sister is quite persuasive. Nerissa leaned into him, feeling his heartbeat strong and steady against her back. Meridia had proven herself a fierce ally in the months since their father's arrest. She'd testified at his trial, stood beside Nerissa before the council, and dedicated herself to undoing the damage Corvain had caused. It didn't erase the years of hatred between them, but it was a start. They threw me into this pit to die, Nerissa said quietly, looking out over the transformed space. The wolves went silent, and you claimed me. Best decision I ever made. You didn't even know me. I knew enough. He turned her to face him, his gray eyes warm with love. I knew you were brave. I knew you were different. I knew that somehow, impossibly, you might be the one person in this world who could save me. You thought you were incapable of love. I was wrong. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, and her lips. I was wrong about so many things, but not about you. Calum stirred between them, making a soft sound. They both looked down at their son, this miracle they'd created together. We were both prisoners, Nerissa said, of expectations, of curses, of fear. And now? She smiled up at him, her eyes glowing faintly in the afternoon light. Now we're free. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. I read every single one, and they mean more than you know.